Ya correct. Tidak lagi. Apa dah? Just I think it's really. All right, so we start. When? So let me share my screen. I hope you are all doing well. I will not be able to hear your voices here. At least I can see the chat that you are all fine. So what am I sharing? We have these extensive slides from communication and academic skills. I usually refer this as to the most important document at Risto for the students, because it really gives you everything that you need to know in order to navigate higher education. So this is the most important document at Risto in terms of student resources. So I'm looking for the part where we talk about academic writing. Academic writing is here. Okay, just a minute. All right. So I put this here. Yeah. Then I come. And then just trying to see. Oh, okay. Okay, that should be better. So what is the next thing? The next thing is to record. So come here. Okay, display capture. Scan here. So we come here. Okay. So I come back here. All right. So I think yes, we have reached 40. So I think we can basically start. Confirm that you can see, you can hear me and you can see the screen. Just in the chat, just say yes. Just say yes that you can see. Okay, we can proceed well with that, right? I've tried to use some. Okay. All right. So good to go. So I welcome all of you to this session. What do we want to discuss? We want to discuss what you call academic writing, and how the assessments will be, especially the summative, given that we are going to use the academic writing style for our exams. Okay, so I want to take you through the basics and then instructions on what you ought to do. And then thereafter, I will share with you sample of some of the of the work that we expect of you. Like, okay, the nature of how this assignment will be, and then there we shall conclude. So we may have like about an hour for this exercise. Please pay attention such that you can actually master these things. This shouldn't be a very hard task because it's basically understanding what you're writing about. Usually, before I start anything to do with how writing should be conducted, I start with the basics. So the basics are usually that if you write quite very well, it means that your thinking is actually proper, well aligned. Okay, it means that your thinking is coherent, and your reasoning is logical, and that you have everything in place in terms of the things that you needed to make an argument. Okay, and I usually say that if you cannot put an argument together, there's no one that you're going to convince in any situation. Okay, whether it is about you getting a job promotion, whether it is you influencing your colleagues to join resources together to start a business, many things. So you gain a lot by having your thinking in the right order. And sometimes we say that writing improves your thinking. Okay, writing improves your thinking, and writing can help you identify some of the loopholes in your thinking. Okay, because in your mind you can have these very good ideas. Okay, now when you put these ideas on paper, you realize no, there is a problem with this kind of thinking. So writing helps in identifying some of the loopholes that you can have in your thinking or in your argument or in whatever you are advancing. Okay, so that's why writing is very important. And of course, we have different types of writings. We have, for example, we are going to look at academic writing, but there is professional writing. Okay, that professional writing is this writing of emails, memos, notices, public relation documents. That is professional writing in a business environment. Okay, where you want to communicate with clarity. Sometimes you aim at convincing people. Sometimes you aim at sharing your opinion. You're sharing information, basically. Okay, but academic writing is quite different, and that's what you're going to look at. I thought that preamble is actually very important for you to have in mind. Okay, so we start. So what is this academic writing? Academic writing is concerned with communicating ideas, research, and knowledge to scholarly community. Okay, to a scholarly community. So a scholarly community consists of the students, the entry researchers, experienced researchers, industry practitioners, lecturers, and anyone who can be interested in academic work. Okay, so when you are writing and your audience is that writing is basically academic writing. Okay, so you are writing to share about certain ideas, research findings, or you're basically sharing knowledge to that wider community. Okay, so it is what we use in universities or institutions of higher learning. Okay, so when you have done research and you want to disseminate this research findings, you write using what we call academic writing. Okay, and you sometimes there is a kind of interchange in the use of what we call academic writing and scientific writing. Okay, scientific writing is more towards communicating research. Okay, we're writing for research purposes, whether it is proposal, whether it is research reports, whatever it is, that we usually term that as scientific writing. Now, academic writing, we are saying that is the kind of writing that we use in academic institutions, and it can include scientific writing, and it also includes writing about ideas, situations, whatever it is, but you're writing in an academic sense, where the audience is basically are the people that we find in higher institutions of higher learning. Okay, so we can also say that academic writing is writing that shares ideas and research in the academia. Okay, and then also the other definition that we can have there is that writing that defines intellectual boundaries of disciplines. So basically, what we are basically saying is that when we are writing in our different fields, whether you're writing as a public health professional, you're writing as a nurse, you're writing as whatever it is, and you are in the academia, the type of writing that we expect of you is academic writing. Okay, that's what we are basically emphasizing there. Now, the audience or the people who write using academic writing can be people who are very experienced, the ones that I call the top researchers, professors, senior lecturers, and things like that. But also the students can also do academic writing. So academic writing is for everyone within the higher education community. Okay, so we have student academic writing when you're writing for your assignments within universities, that is student academic writing. Now, when you have expert academic writing is when you're talking about the people that are sharing knowledge. Okay, now, usually, of course, the lecturers, whether senior lecturers, whether professors, whatever you can call them. Okay, and usually their writings are intended for publication. Okay, and you remember that in the academia, you are supposed to be producing papers. Your output, your level of performance is determined by how many papers you're writing, how many chapters of books you're releasing. Okay, so that means that if you're going to be, if you're aspiring to be a lecturer, it's not only you sharing knowledge, impacting understanding to students, but you actually need to be a producer of knowledge. Okay, you need to do research and disseminate. So that means that if you do research, you produce articles, and these articles are published in the journals, and then your academic credentials increase. You even get promotions until you reach the level of being a professor. So that means that academic writing is actually very, very vital. Okay, so we move forward. So, like I said earlier on, communication in your workplaces is professional if you are not in the academia. Okay, now if you are in the academia, when we say academia, we are referring to institutions of higher learning, that is the academia. If you are in the academia, the main tool of communication is academic writing. Okay, that's the main tool. That's what you use. So like I said earlier on, you share ideas, you share knowledge, you share research. Okay, you can put this differently and say academic writing enables knowledge production. And remember what I've just said, that in the academia, you are not only supposed to be only sharing information with the students or with colleagues, sharing knowledge. Okay, you are supposed to be producing knowledge. Okay, so you produce knowledge through research, and then you share that knowledge. That is research dissemination. So knowledge production is the research, and then the sharing is the dissemination. Okay, and then number two is evaluation and learning. So with evaluation and learning, what does this mean? Is that you have a number of research articles that have been written about a particular topic by different uh, scholars, or by different people in the academia. Now, you need to put yourself in a position where you need to look at all the things that these people have written and say, okay, what are the implications of this, or what are the gaps with what are these all other people have written. That is evaluation. Okay, that is evaluation. So sometimes when you're writing in academic writing, does not always mean that I have to do research and then write the report and then share with different people. No, it may also mean that you sit down, choose a topic that you want to look at what all other people have written about that topic, come up with a synthesis paper, and that synthesis paper, you share it with other people. That is still academic writing. So that means that what you have basically done is that you have evaluated what all other people have written, and then you have come up with one document, and then you share it with others. Okay, so you have evaluated and you have shared it with the others, and then the others will basically learn from that document. That is what is we are referring to as evaluation and learning. And then the third point, which is identity and career development. Of course, young people like you are supposed to learn these skills. You're supposed to know how to write in an academic manner. This will help in setting you apart and will set a career path for you, whether in the academia and even going for further education, whether for masters, whether for PhD, whatever it is. Okay, and I've always told you that we have some universities which can actually where from bachelor's you go direct to PhD. Now, for that to happen, you must be very good in academic writing. Okay, you must be very good at academic writing, and you must have produced some papers before you reach that. So most of you have really read textbooks. Definitely everyone, I believe. You have read research articles. Those are all written following the guidelines for writing in the academia. So that kind of writing in the textbooks, in the research articles, is follows what we call a formal tone. Okay, there is no being informal in your communication. Okay, you communicate using a formal tone. No use of slangs, no use of terminologies that actually do not fit into that context. Whatever it is, you maintain a formal tone. It is unbiased. The meaning of this is that if you're writing an article about a particular phenomena, you are supposed to dig out the evidence for side A and side B. Okay, not only digging out one side. Okay, so if, for example, you are critiquing, let us say, a given theory, you're critiquing a given framework, whatever it is, you basically need to give the pros and the cons. That is always very important. It should be clear and concise, structured and logical, and it should be based on facts, and you should also provide the sources. So you should always cite. Okay, so that means that you need to be able to write concisely, know what you are communicating in clear terms, okay, and know what idea has to follow the other. Okay, which idea has to follow the other. That's very important. Okay, that is the logical part, structured and logical. Okay, so you start with the introduction, you go to the body, and then you can come to the recommendation and then the conclusion. Typically, that is what that is the structure, what is expected of you in academic writing. Okay, so let us look at each of these points one by one, so that we basically understand. So when you say structured, clear organization, introduction, body, and then you can put recommendations, conclusions, or you can have, and in our case, what we are going to do is that we are going to have the introduction, the body, and then the conclusion. That's what we are going to have. But if you're writing for, let us say, research, you have conducted research and you are writing your report. The major things we expect, you have the introduction, the methods, the results, and then the discussion. And then, of course, definitely the discussion also has the usually the discussion, recommendation, and conclusion are in one chapter. Okay, so that is what we mean by being structured. That's very vital. Evidence, provide evidence. That means that you need to reference. And what references do you use? Credible references. What are the credible references? Research articles that have been published in credible journals or reputable journals. So what type of referencing do you use? You have in-text citation, and then you also have the list of references. Two kinds of reference formats, okay, within the same document. In text, every time you write a statement that you have got from somewhere, you put the reference there, and then that is in-text citation. And then at the end of your work, you have the list of references, the list of everything that you have used in your work. Those things need to be there. Should be critical. Critical meaning that I can use the word critical with the word synthesis, and I've used the word synthesis a lot in this presentation, and this is very deliberate. Let us say, for example, you want to write about the maternal mortality ratio in South Sudan. Okay, that's what you want to write. Or let us use a generic title. You want to write about maternal mortality in South Sudan. Okay, so when you're writing about maternal mortality in South Sudan, you're going to talk about, of course, definitely we would expect that you're going to tell us what maternal mortality is, why is it something that warrants our attention, and why is it that we need to pay a lot of attention to this problem of maternal mortality in the context of South Sudan. That's still the background, right? Now, we expect you now to give us the data. What is the situation like in terms of maternal mortality in South Sudan? So you start telling us that, okay, we have different resources that are citing different maternal mortality ratios. We have data from UNFPA saying this. We have data from this hospital survey saying this. However, I think Of course, you don't say I think, because if you say you think in academic writing, that is not usually very common. Um, and we shall talk about it when we talk about first person. Okay, how do we use third person or first person? But definitely in your writing, we should be able to see where you are. Okay, where you are about this whole situation. The meaning of that is that, okay, you have talked about this, you have talked about this, you have talked about this from these different sources. Now, for you, what are you saying? And for you to say this is what I'm saying, you must have done good analysis and evaluation, and you have come up with a very good judgment on the issue that you're writing about. That is being critical. Balanced, both perspectives. Okay, so if you're evaluating which theories can be used in managing an ethical dilemma, you're evaluating which theories can be used in managing an ethical dilemma in a healthcare setting. So that means that you need to tell us the different theories that you have, that you can think about, and then you now say, okay, this one has disadvantages, this one has disadvantages, but I think this is better. Okay, but when when I say I think, I'm using it for the purpose of this presentation, but that is not usually what we write in academic settings. Okay, so you basically say, based on these findings, it is logical that when you write like that, that is what we expect. We don't expect you to say I think. No. Okay. So that is the balanced part. You give both perspectives and then come up with your logical, informed stance. And then precise, clear, use clear subject-specific language. If you are in, let us say, nursing, if you're in public health, if you're in nutrition, if you whatever, reproductive health, there's a language that we expect of you. Okay, and that language is kind of very specific. A person in business may not understand the terminologies that you're using in your field. Okay, but that does not mean that you should not use the terminologies in your field properly because the other person does not understand them. No. You need to use clear, subject specific language. Okay, of course, understanding the audience that you're writing to is also very important. When you write research reports, we write them in technical terms usually, but now when we are presenting these research findings to, let us say, policymakers, we need to tone down. We reduce the use of technical vocabularies. So the whole point is know when to use these terminologies. If you're communicating with the academia, well and good, you can use those terminologies. But if you are communicating to policymakers about your research findings, then you tone down a little bit. Being objective, no opinions. Okay? Don't put your feelings, your whatever it is, your opinions there. It's the ideas that are at play. Okay? And being objective, it means that you need to understand how to present your ideas such that they don't reflect that, okay, this is something that is coming out of your mind and not something that is actually evidence-based. Okay, avoid contractions. Contractions, what are contractions? If you say chlorine does not react with, okay, chlorine does not react with, that's the full sentence, right? Chlorine does not react with whatever substance you put there. If you say chlorine doesn't is a contraction. Okay? It will not. If you say it won't is the contraction. So please, no contractions in your writings. Okay? It will not. You write the way it is. You don't say it won't. Okay? Don't use informal phrases. Okay? Use academic word list and complex sentence structures. Okay? There are words or phrases that are basically academic in nature. And when you read academic writing, I think you can basically say it is a language. It's a language. And when it is a language, there are ways in which things are supposed to be done. Okay? So when you're writing in the academia or the types of academic writing, we have descriptive writing, we have analytical writing, persuasive writing, critical writing. Okay, those are the different types of what of writing in the in academic writing. So descriptive writing is when you're telling us about a particular situation. Okay, so when you're talking about a particular situation, in this case, let's use the example of, let us say, maternal mortality in South Sudan. And you're saying that the maternal health situation in South Sudan, that's your topic, the maternal health situation in South Sudan. So when you're writing that, we would expect that you're going to tell us what maternal health is, what it entails, how do we judge the situation of maternal health? That means, how do we measure maternal health? And then now you go to the situation in South Sudan, and then you start giving us the figures that we expect. The figures that are coming from the different researches about maternal health in South Sudan. When you write that, that is descriptive. Okay? That is descriptive. And it is what we are going to do. It's what we are going to do in our assignments. We want you to be able to choose a topic and then write about it in an academic sense. That's what we are going to do. Okay, and the point here is that it is very common in early education, this level that we are in. This is where it is actually very, very vital. Okay, so you report, summarize, and define. No complications. No complications. If you want to go a notch higher, above a little bit, you go to analytical writing. So analytical writing, it has the components of description. Everything that you have put, for example, for maternal health in South Sudan. Now, when we are writing in an analytical sense, you're basically going to do the following: compare, analyze, relate, and examine. Now, let's go back to that situation. So if you're going to talk about maternal health in South Sudan in an analytical sense, you'll be able to say maternal health in South Sudan compares is a which word can I use? In comparison to the East African countries, maternal health in South Sudan is in a dire state. A lot needs to be done. For example, maternal mortality in Uganda is this, in Kenya is this, in Tanzania it is this, while in South Sudan it is this. This therefore implies that. So that is comparison. Okay, and then analysis. After reading everything that contributes to poor maternal health outcomes, you can be able to say, okay, given the political economic situation of the country, maternal health outcomes have been bad, okay, or have been, or maternal health has been affected. And the major driver of this is the level of poverty. So that is analysis. You have looked at all these factors that influence maternal health in the country, and for you in your analysis, you come and say, this is the point. This is the point. Okay, you should be able to relate maternal health to even other areas of, let us say, public health or even agriculture, whatever it is. That is almost at the abstract level. Okay, so at abstract level, you don't see A and you say it is only A. You need to be able to know where A connects, how does it relate, and things like that. So analytical writing is a notch higher than descriptive writing. Persuasive, this is when you are writing to basically convince people to perhaps take a certain stance or position. Okay, yes, you have to use evidence for you to convince people to be on your side. So the whole point here is that you have looked, you have your own stance, you have where you stand on a situation. For example, if you're writing about legalizing abortion, and your position is that abortion should be legalized, and you have several points to do that, how you present that work with all the evidence, you say, okay, abortion is illegal in this country because of ABCD. However, there is need to change our strategy on this. Legalizing abortion has been shown to influence maternal health outcomes in a positive way. For example, in this country, when abortion was legalized, maternal mortality rate decreased from this to that. It is therefore logical to do this. Okay, that is persuasive. Then the tone remains formal. There is use of evidence, and you have structured your arguments logically, and you have also looked at the other side of the coin. When you do that, that is persuasive. Okay. With the critical writing, we are saying that it is a advanced form of persuasive writing. For it includes multiple views. Okay, and then again, you give perspectives, and you can, for example, critique, debate, or even agree or even disagree. But the whole thing is that you have looked at every aspect. Okay, you have looked at every aspect. You have taken what other scholars are fronting about that particular issue. Okay, so I'm seeing a comment here that the slides are not appearing well. How many people? to how many people are saying the slides are not appearing well? It could be a device issue, because definitely, let me check. How come you're saying the screen is visible? Because that's what I can see. Okay, let me do this. Let me do this. Yeah. Okay, so that marks the end basically. About the basics of academic writing. So I want us to take water for like 5 minutes, and then we come and look at a sample paper. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing this. Okay. Drink some water, rotate around, and then we'll connect back shortly. Yes, those who have questions, you can put them in the chat. I'll start with them before we go to the second part. Okay. Yes, we shall share the what? We shall share the guidelines definitely in what format. Um, please, no AI, no AI, no reflective. Um, academic writing that's use of AI. Okay. So, so what is the topic here? Mm, implications. Okay, I believe I should be okay now. So other people, please let them come, let them come, let them come. Let them come, please. We conclude this. And this is actually the most important part. So if people disappear and don't get this part, it will be on them. It will be on them. Okay, so just a few minutes from now, finish this. Okay, so we start. Let me share my screen. Yeah, this is a Word document, and definitely, definitely, you will not be able to see it clearly, but because of the fact that it is a Word document, but I will try to increase the font to, okay. All right, so we start, come back here. So Okay, it reduces. So we do this. Do this. Okay, I think we can keep it there. So this is work that I wrote some time back. It was again for my assignment. The topic was democratizing global health economic systems and the implications basically for the policymakers in Kenya. Okay, you don't have to make your topic very complicated like that. Don't, please don't. We are basically using this for illustration purposes. Okay, but if you can go for a harder topic, no problem, as long as you can handle it. Okay, but don't, usually for academic reasons, you don't need to complicate life. I'm one of the firm believers in that. Why do you complicate life? All right. So I was writing about democratizing global health economic systems and the implications for policymakers in Kenya. So you need to understand the topic first. What was I doing here? Here, I was emphasizing I was writing about global health economic actors. Okay, the people who are involved, the organizations, the institutions that are involved in global. Okay, especially those that are involved in the financing of health interventions. How do we make sure that we have local participation of the people? Let me use the example of South Sudan. In South Sudan, we have a number of NGOs. The decisions on how the NGOs will use their resources, these decisions are made in the headquarters, whether Geneva, whether it is New York, wherever it is. And this means that the local people do not participate in deciding how those resources are used. Okay, so that is what basically I'm talking about. I'm saying we have international actors that give resources to local people, but these local people do not participate in the decision making. So how do we make it democratic, that you have full participation? That is democratizing. So democratizing global health economic systems and the implications for health policymakers. What are the local policymakers? What should the local policymakers have in mind in order to democratize the global health economics? Okay, so that is the topic that I wrote about. Now, the ingredients of this document, it is what I want you to basically focus on, the things that you need to have in mind. Okay, so you start with the introduction. So in the introduction, you are framing the problem. If you can write that word down, frame the problem. So frame the problem is the first step. Please write it down. Framing the problem. You need to frame the problem. Frame the problem. I don't know how many times I can repeat it. Frame the problem. Okay? So what is framing the problem? Say, okay, how am I going to put my ideas? to make sure that they are coherent and logical. That is framing the problem, and that is your introduction. So for me, I said, okay, health policymakers in developing countries such as Kenya face significant challenges in making efficient and effective decisions because of persistent constraints in financial resources, health care professionals, medical supplies, and technological infrastructure, which are often insufficient to meet the diverse and growing health needs of the population. That's the first point. I'm saying that, you see, health policymakers in developing countries have a problem, and that problem is scarcity of almost everything, whether it is human resource, medical supplies, whether it is technological infrastructure, whether it is financial resources. These are always in scarcity. And yet, the needs of the population are always increasing. And now, I bring in the second point, which is that, okay, this chronic scarcity, which I'm terming as this chronic underfunding, forces policymakers to grapple with difficult trade-offs. It makes it very difficult for policymakers to decide, should I go for this, should I go for that? When you have limited money, you have to make trade-offs. And now, what happens is that they have to make these trade-offs in a situation where we have what you call global health actors. Okay? You don't have money, but you have other people who have the money, and they're saying you do this. So these global health actors include WHO, they include USAID, they include all these international agencies, Melinda and Melinda Gates, whatever, all those are entities. Now, for them, they come, I have these problems. They come, they say, I have the money, but this is how I want you to deal with this problem. So that is basically the framing part. That is how I bring it out in my introduction. Okay? Yet, the aim of these policymakers is to make sure that you have sustainable and democratized health systems. So someone is saying, we have money for you, but we want you to use this money this way. For you, you know your problems and you know how to solve them, but this person who has money wants you to do ABCD. Now, the person who has money wants you to do ABCD, yet the things that this person is telling you to do are not in line with what your aspirations are, and therefore you have two problems. Please don't mind about the word document. I want you to mind about the thinking behind the paper, not the words in the paper. Okay, so the health policymakers have a problem of ensuring that the health system is sustainable, it has local ownership, and is democratized and meets the local needs of the people. Now, these things may be in contradiction with the global health actors. So what do the health policymakers need to do? And that is where we go to the implications. So the implications here. Okay, and then you put the implications and then go to the conclusion. Why have I used that document? Is to illustrate to you the kind of thinking that is in academic writing. Every paper that you're going to write, you should have the structure of that paper in your mind. You should know how these ideas are going to be connected to one another. So that means that you need to know where the transitions are. You need to know where you can use the transition phrases. You need to know where the points are and all those things. And then you come to the conclusion. So the structure, this structure, it is the introduction, the body, and then the conclusion. Okay? The introduction, the body, and then the conclusion. Here, I've only put the title that I'm only having here. It is this one. But the other part, I've not put anything because it flows naturally. Naturally. Make your paper flow naturally. That you don't need to tell us that this is the introduction, this is the body. No, you don't need to tell us that. You don't need to tell us that. It should flow naturally. So that means that you need to read a number of similar papers for you to be in a good position to handle this kind of work. Let me get a charger in 1 minute. Okay, so what we can basically do, I think we are coming to it's not charging. So what else do you see in this? We have in-text citations following the Harvard referencing style. This is what we mean. These are the ones we call the in-text citations. These ones, in-text citations. Those are in-text citations. And then you come here. These are the list of references. The list of what? Of references are here. All these. Those are the two referencing things that we actually need you to do. And I think, unless you have any question, right for me, before I go to that, how am I going to choose the topic? So if you're doing, let us say, for example, you have done a module called Introduction to Human Resource Management. That is the module that you have done. And in the content somewhere, there is the process of hiring. Okay? So the topic that you can choose within that module can be what are the modern trends in hiring? Okay, the modern trends in hiring. So what should be included in that topic? Modern trends in hiring. That is the topic. So let me here in the chat. Let me see what should be included. How should it flow? What are the things that should be there? Write in the chat very fast. Modern trends in hiring. It is what a student X wants to write about. I'm waiting. So as I'm waiting, I'm going to look through for questions. Pai is asking the number of the word range. The word range, I think, is not going to exceed a 1,000, it will be between 700 and 1,000 there. Yes. So I'm waiting for the what? For the comments. If you know what will be included in that document, then you know what to do. Okay, so modern trends in hiring. How will that document flow? I'm waiting. The process of hiring, good. The usual process of hiring, yes. The usual process of what? Hiring. I'm waiting. Please let the ideas flow. Advertising, referrals, and recommended. Okay, Simon is saying advertising, referrals. Yes, those are the components of the hiring process. Okay, job description. Those are still components. That is Abraham. Waiting for comments. Challenges faced during hiring. Okay. I want trends. The topic is trends in the hiring process. Do you know the meaning of trends? How are people hiring now? Nowadays, how are people hiring? That means there is a transition. Previously, they were doing this, but now they are doing this. That is what we mean by trends. Trends, I can put the word, because that is the key word, trends. Trends in hiring process. Trends in hiring process. Please. Longa has given the point. One major point, utilization of AI. That's a very good point. Trends. Currently, what are they doing? The current trends in hiring. Trends in hiring. For every module that you look at, please look at the trends. Let us not be locked in the previous outdated the processes. Modern communication technologies. That's the second point. Okay, that's the second point. Yes, very good. Maduk has said a very good point, that we are now using online advertisement for vacancy positions. No, there's something that is missing there. Need focusing on employment expertise, prioritizing yes, diversity and inclusion is another point. It's what organizations are doing. They're saying, okay, these people who are working here, where are they coming from? Who are they? Do we need to bring in other people who are not different from them? Yes. That is diversity and inclusion. Yes, that's one. Yes. So those are about 3 points. Those are 3 points. Yes, Thorn brought a point that I was talking about last time. Externalized recruitment. The organization itself is not hiring. It is other people who are hiring for the organization. That is externalized recruitment. And also recruitment beyond the borders. What do we call that? Recruitment beyond the borders. Globalization. It's because of the interconnectedness of the world. The world is now a global village, so you can hire someone from whatever country. Skills-based client. Yes. Then is saying introduction, definition of key terms. Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right. Very good. Very good comments there. Skills-based hiring. We have candidate experience. We have experience of candidates. We have organization policy. Multitasking. Yes. Very good. Yes. Even recruiting people and then when they are not actually going to work in the office. You could in the process, the whole process, you actually include that this person is going to work from home. Okay. Okay. So how are we going to write this paper? Now we have the ideas in mind. And this is the first step, please. This is the first step. Put your ideas on paper. Put your ideas on a paper. Okay? Put your ideas on a paper first. Don't rush to write. When you put them on a paper, on an outline, it gives you, we call them mental pictures. You get mental pictures. We call them mental pictures. Which word can we use? Mental word. Can we use the word framework? Okay, we can use the word mind map. Mind map. Okay, that you have the idea and you have written this idea. You know how this idea will connect to this idea, how this idea will connect to this idea, how this idea will connect to this idea. You cannot have that if you have not written it on a piece of paper. And you see, the problem we have is that people think their minds are very sharp. No, your mind is not very sharp. Sometimes our minds actually blind us. Cognitive biases. You are biased. Your mind biases you. You think, no, I can do this thing straightforward. No, please write it down. Write it down. It is not a stupid task to do. Write it down. It gives you the proper way of thinking and linking up ideas. So that's the first step. Okay, so now we have the ideas. The ideas are, from what you have written here, is that we start by understanding the key terms. So we talk about what hiring is. We talk about why it is very important. We talk about how usual organizations have been doing it. And then we talk about the modern trends. And then we conclude. Isn't that very simple? So let's write it down. So here is how you can write it. You see, hiring is an important process of in human resource management. It enables organizations to get the human resources that will do the work for the organization. This is very important for sustainability, profitability, and overall performance of the organization. Poor recruitment can result in two losses to the organization, and therefore it is very vital for the organization to carry out diligent, appropriate hiring. Traditionally, hiring involves identifying the need for hiring, outlining the key skill sets that will be required of the human resource to be employed, and this involves description of the job, in bracket, creating job descriptions. Okay, and this is usually done together with what we call job analysis. However, with the introduction of new technologies such as the internet, AI, and other global dynamics, the process of hiring has since changed. Organizations are shifting in their hiring process. First, we have organizations that are incorporating AI in the recruitment process, such as Organization X used this AI to recruit people for this job. Point number one. Secondly, what was the second point? What was the second point? Points have evaporated from my head. What was the second point? So we have use of AI, diversity and inclusion was there. What else? What else? Globalized recruitment. Yes. And then use of third-party organizations to recruit on behalf of the. So you put your points there. And then in your conclusion, you say that hiring process has changed over the years. And this is because of technological advancement. And therefore, hiring managers need to be competent in using these technological advancements in the hiring process. And your paper is neat, beautiful, and very organized. You put the references there, inside citation, and the list of references. And that's all. Isn't that very easy? Isn't that very easy? Isn't that very easy? So we are done. We are done, unless there is a question. Any question? So look at your module, select anything, write about it in an academic sense. We're going to share the slides with you, and then we're also going to share with you the guidelines. And that will be it. If you want any, yes, data-driven recruitment, yes. If you want any further assistance, I'm always available on my WhatsApp number. Contact me during working hours. Beyond working hours, no, please. All right, so that's that. Final questions, just 5 minutes or 4 minutes for you to ask any question in the chat, and then we conclude this. Okay. Just waiting for the questions to come in, we conclude this. Further details will be shared on the group and by email. Okay. No, there's nothing critical here. Duku. I didn't say that you're going to write anything critical. I say that it is descriptive. Descriptive, please. We said it is the first level, and that is where we want you to end. Nothing analytical, nothing critical. Don't complicate life. Okay. Okay, very good. We welcome Apai, Juma Michael, yes. Understanding the country policy of recruitment, yes. Okay. Okay. Just description. Just tell us what you want to write about. Write it in an organized way. Give me references. No, we want 3 pages. 3 pages. 3 pages. And then the other pages of the references are not counted. So your introduction, your body, and your conclusion, 3 pages. Times Romans, font size 12, 1.5 spacing. 1.5 spacing. Okay. Hey, Benson, you give me the topic. Give me the topic. I tell you. I write for you now. Benson is saying that I've only given human resource, but I've given public health also. But give me the topic. I just do that very fast. Okay. Betty is saying she has understood. Dennis says he has understood. Paul says he has understood. My work is done, right? So if you have any challenges, contact any of your friends. Contact any of your friends. Learn from each other. Learn from each other. Collaborate. Okay? If there's something that you don't understand, ask any member of your group. That person will be able to help you. At the end of it all, we want to produce very good academicians. Academicians are good at thinking and they're good at solving problems. So if you're very good in academic writing, you're going to be very good at solving problems because you can articulate a problem quite clearly. Quite clearly. That's always the first step in solving a problem. Okay? The first step in solving a problem is writing the problem quite clearly. If you cannot solve the problem. And then also the second point is, if you cannot understand the problem in your own language, you cannot solve the problem. Okay? So Harvard referencing style is what we use for anything to do with referencing. Anything to do with referencing. Benson is asking about microbiology. So the topic is microbiology and in midwifery. Okay. So what can we look at? We can talk about antimicrobial resistance. Okay, and the implications for midwives. Have you understood that topic? Emergence of antimicrobial resistance and the implications for midwives. That's the topic, right? Yeah, this is a sample topic, and there's a lot you can write about there. You start by telling us what microbes are, how they develop resistance, why resistance is increasing, and what is the role of midwives in addressing that antimicrobial resistance. I think that is fair, right? Okay. Yeah. Goodbye, everyone.